What's going on, guys? Collector Crow here at the Collector's Nest. Recently, I took a visit to a lot of local comic shops, secondhand bookstores, and the like. So for this video, I'm going to talk about what I picked up from my secondhand bookstore, comic shop, used books pickup for April and May. So stay with me. First off, I'm just going to get into the Shonen Jump titles that I've really just been missing a few of or trying to collect over the years, fill out the collection. So, first up are the Rosario Vampire Season 2 books. We have a lot of them here. I already had 1 and 2. This is 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 10, and 11, so just missing 9 and 12 out of that. But this is a series that I read a while ago when it was first coming out in print, and I really liked it at the time. I got in trouble for reading it in class a few times, not because of the content or anything. It is a vampire ecchi series, just so you know. But I was reading it in class, letting people borrow it, and it was probably a little distracting to the actual coursework we were trying to do. But I know that it follows the protagonist Tsukune. Yeah, Tsukune, I remembered that. I was close, at least. And he's at this school for monsters, essentially. And he ends up becoming the blood bank for the resident vampire chick. And I liked it at the time, but when Season 2 started, I didn't actually jump into it. I just kind of forgot about this series, or rather put it on the back burner. And now that I actually have the majority of Season 2, I'm thinking it's high time that I actually dive back into this, because it was a nice rom-com funny series, but it actually had some really good action moments, unlike a lot of the other ecchi titles that kind of follow in this same vein. Pun not intended, again. But these were a good find that I found for half price, so I couldn't pass it up, and I plan to order the 2 that I'm still missing very shortly. Next up, I have volumes 8, 11, and 14 of Hoshiningi. I will be really honest, I don't know a lot about this series. I've had the first 2 volumes for forever and just have not gotten around to it. But it's a Shonen Jump title, and I am trying to get most of those because while they usually aren't always the best quality material, with a few exceptions here and there, they tend to be enjoyable enough to, read through the whole thing and not be terribly disappointed. So Hoshiningi is just one of those that's on my list, and one of these bookstores I went to actually had one more volume that I need to go back and pick up. I just couldn't remember which ones I had gotten from these, so I didn't want to accidentally buy a second copy of one. Technically these were from March, but they were right at the end of March, so we're going to count them in this haul as well. And then, continuing that trend, we have volume 26 of Rurouni Kenshin, kind of a random pickup. I haven't delved into Rurouni Kenshin. I'm sorry, don't kill me. But yeah, I got this at a bookstore that's just down the road and has a very small manga section. They actually had one more volume, but it had a split running down the spine where you could actually pull it apart. So, didn't really want to pick that one up, but I did get volume 26 here. And moving right along with the Shonen Jump train, we have some volumes of D. Gray Man, which D. Gray Man is a series I've tried to get into a couple of times, and it's never been bad for me. It's just been like, oh, this is pretty good. Forgets about it completely. It's never been gripping enough to make me want to stick around and keep reading. But I know that it's got a big fan base. A lot of people compare it to like Fullmetal Alchemist in terms of what you might like. I actually did that myself in my manga archive, so I might have been reaching a little bit talking about a series I didn't fully know a lot about. I just knew it shared some similar themes and motifs. But I'm actually going to try to dive in officially to D. Gray Man because I have most of it. I don't know if you can see it right. Nope, it's out of the shot. But I have volumes 1 through 16 up there, so this gives me 19, 20, 21, and 22. So I'm missing a couple in there between those, but that gives me a good bit to have a starter amount. Yeah, what is that? 20 volumes in total is a starter amount? That's plenty to start with, I think. And then finishing up the Shonen Jump ones, we have 3 volumes of sports manga, which were part of the 3 for $10 wall again. I went back to that comic shop that had the buy 3 manga for $10, and I found a few more I wanted. Volume 16 of Ice Shield 21, Volume 8 of Whistle, and Volume 21 of Whistle. So, Whistle being the soccer, or depending on where you live, football manga, and Ice Shield 21 being the football manga. I've tried Ice Shield 21 before, and I really loved what I read of it. It's just fallen way down on my to-read list, and I've never gotten around to really purchasing more than the first few volumes of it. So once I finish Haikyuu, I'm sure I'm going to want something to fill that void left behind by it, and I'm hoping one of these two can really fit the bill for that. Alright, next up are 2 volumes of Mare, volumes 8 and 9, and this is a series that ever since I was out in Pittsburgh for a bit and I found just a good number of volumes in a random secondhand bookstore, I've been on the lookout for the rest of these. I think I'm only missing maybe like 3 or 4 now, but I remember watching this back on Toonami with this kid Ganta, I think? Ginta. He was battling like the chess pieces or something with this little steel ball guy right here, and it was a really fun time when I was watching it on there, but I never actually read the manga, and so I'm on the lookout now for that so I can finally see how that series ended, since I don't think I ever watched the end of the anime either. So up next, a few randoms. Another volume of XL Saga. You might remember if you watched my previous video on my last haul, I picked up another volume of XL Saga there, and this is actually the final volume, volume 27, and I'm hoping to start this soon. It's just a series that I keep finding volumes of it for relatively cheap, and I know that it's kind of a moderately big thing, so I did want to give it a shot, and yeah, I really don't know much about it, so I can't speak that much more to it, but when I find volumes, I pick them up. This one was, again, one of the 3 for $10s. And then I've got volume 7 of Old Boy. This was a very random pickup when I went to a bookstore down in Florida when I was down there for a bit. And they actually had a bunch of copies of this. I was kind of caught off guard because I feel like in the back of my head I'd heard of this, but it just never stuck with me. So I bought this, then kind of looked up, well, I looked it up while I was there in the store to see if it sounded like something I would be interested in. But it sounds like something where a man was imprisoned and now he's got like a new lease on life. And I'm sure there's some kind of action, or by the looks of it, maybe gang or stuff involved in it, mafia, I don't know. Anyone who's read this, feel free to, in the comments, leave a brief little non-spoiler summary, because I'm going to be on the lookout for the other volumes of this. It's something that I really haven't seen in stores that much, so I was kind of weirdly happy to find this volume that I didn't know existed. 2 more volumes of Samurai Deeper I picked up, volumes 13 and 17. Again, you probably saw my previous video where I picked up some volumes of this, and it seems interesting enough. The volumes, almost in every bookstore that I go in that's used books, they'll have some volumes of Samurai Deeper, so it's being pretty easy to pick these up. I probably have about half the series now. I'm going to hopefully give it a shot when I find the volume 1 for it. Alright, so next up is a very interesting find. I went to a comic shop that is around the road, and I knew they had a very small amount of manga. I had looked at it before, but I wasn't really looking for anything in particular, so I didn't have a good memory of what they had. But I stopped in, and I was very surprised by what they had. And now I don't know if it was used or new, everything they had, because it was all bagged up and they were selling it for cover price. I don't know if that was just a them kind of thing. But they had singles of Hellsing, singles of Gantz, singles of what I bought, GTO, Great Teacher Onizuka. So I didn't pick up the Hellsing or the Gantz, because for Hellsing I'm picking up that new hardcover edition, and for Gantz I already had the volumes that they had in the store. I think it was just volume 8. So I actually already had that from a deal that I got online a while ago. But Great Teacher Onizuka, I found volumes 5, 6, and 9, all in relatively good condition. Yeah, I mean, for cover price, just out in the wild, finding Great Teacher Onizuka, you know, that comedy that I hear every manga collector, manga enthusiast talking about that I have never gotten to try. Yeah, I wanted to pick this up. That was exciting. It was like finding Iron Walk John or something like that. One of my highly anticipated grails to just find in the wild. So I don't really want to start at volume 5 of this, but I'm hoping I can maybe get lucky and find some more volumes coming up in the future, because I have seen a few in other stores before, but they're never this good of condition. So mad props to that comic shop for keeping these in good condition like this. All right, next up I have a volume of Shaman Warrior. It was a 3 for $10. Volume 6. This is, I believe, actually a Korean series. Yeah, published in Korea, 2003. So it's aged a little bit. But this is one that I've been trying to pick up over time. Again, I know I've been saying that about most of these, but I've almost completed my set. I believe this is only 9 volumes, and I think I'm missing only 2 now. So it's relatively difficult to find. I don't think it's super expensive. It's just not the most common series to find. So I want to pick up all 9 of them before I actually dive into it, since it's such a short series like that. I feel like since I'm finding them all for relatively cheap, it's not that big of an investment. Continuing the 3 for $10 store, this was actually only 50% off, but I felt like it was still a good enough deal. And that is volumes 5 and 7 of Saturn Apartments. This is a series that was on my radar some time ago, and I kind of just forgot about it. I had it, I think, in my cart, and then I opted to buy some other stuff instead. So I found this just on the shelf, and it reminded me I wanted to check it out, and so I picked it up. So I believe this is about an artificial kind of community that when Earth becomes uninhabitable, people are out in space living in this new colony, and it's about, I'm assuming, the trials and dangers of living out there, and whether or not the people will ever come back down to Earth, and if they have to make that decision. That's just kind of what I get from the backs of the books when I was reading it here and on Right Stuff. But now that I've remembered this series, I'm going to try to pick up volume 1 if I can find it. I think it's still in stock in most places. A little disappointed this has a small tear on the cover. I don't know if you can see that. Maybe not. But that's not too bad. I don't mind that too much, especially for 50% off. Can't really complain. All right, I'm going to shuffle this around here and move into one of the big series hauls. And that would be xxxholic. So in my last video, I talked about how I'd started finally reading xxxholic after having the 1 through 3 omnibus for probably a decade. And it wasn't my most thrilling read, but I'm probably going to still keep up with it casually over time, just whenever there's nearly nothing else I'm dying to read at the moment, I'm going to read it. But I ended up picking up some random volumes. I'm going to do these out of order here. But volumes 19, 16, 15, 14, 11, 10, 9, I feel like I'm doing a countdown, 7, 5, I gotta get that in focus a little bit better, 4, 2 copies of volume 3, and volume 2. So again, if you didn't watch my last video, this is about like the space-time witch Yuko. Yes, and the boy who comes to work in her shop in exchange for her helping him not see spirits anymore, and just kind of the customers that come there seeking help with mystical happenings going on around them. And so I went to the first place that I was checking out last month, and I found probably half of these there in stock at cover price. I don't know if they were new or not in that store, but I thought, okay, I don't see the xxxholic singles that often. Let's go ahead and pick these up. So I did. Very next store I went to had like every other series I picked up, or every other volume that I have here, plus several of the ones that I already picked up. And so I was thinking, oh my god, at this store they are half off. I just paid so much more than I needed to, and it ruined my whole day. It's just a little thing. It's like probably $50 more, $40 more, but it's not fun thinking that. I could have saved so much money. Anyway, as you see, I picked up Volume 3 twice because I could not remember which volumes were in my car, despite the fact that I actually went out to my car to check which volumes I had, and then went back into the store that had the half-price ones. And I somehow still managed to buy 2 copies of Volume 3. So probably in the future I'll do a giveaway of that Volume 3, probably along with my 1 through 3 omnibus now that I'm getting the singles. So I just prefer singles in general. Still, I'm happy to kind of be making a complete set of this series because it is good for what it is. It's just not exactly my cup of tea as in one of my all-time favorite series, and it's not, I don't think, going to head that way, despite the fact that I love the type of cynical dark mysticism stories. Alright, now for another biggie. Also, same kind of issue happened with the same stores. I picked up several volumes of Subasa, also by Clamp, at that store that had them at cover price, and then the half price store also had several volumes of Subasa, the same ones. So I didn't quite get as many of this because I'm not too certain I'm going to read all of Subasa, but I wanted to give it a shot first because I've had the first 2 volumes, which I read way back when I was in high school, I think, and I liked it then, but I just didn't continue it. And I think I'm missing still Volume 3 because this one started at Volume 4, and then I got 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, no, yes, 10. And 11, 12, not 11, that's the one I was messing up. Volume 12 right there. And now I know this ties into xxxholic actually. It's not exactly a crossover, but they share some plot threads. But I think it can be read pretty standalone from what I know about it. It's more of a fantasy series. So I'm thinking maybe this will have a little bit more to grip me since it's an overarching story. But we'll see. But I think I'm down to this stack here and this right here. So first, it's just a random volume of Rhondma 1/2, volume 25. Rhondma 1/2 is weird to me because it's a series that I just kind of stopped on, but it's got a weird place in my heart as one of the only manga to make me laugh out loud in its first volume, actually. It's just that comedy manga tend to not be my style, so I have a hard time going through something and not really seeing much overall development until the end of it. And I think that's a little bit of an issue with Rumiko Takahashi's works in general. They kind of spin their wheels before coming to a conclusion. But I thought, hey, I'll pick this up. There were also some volumes of that at the full price store, but I was already purchasing a lot, so I just got the one that was at the half price store. Next up, I've got volume 1 of Battle Angel Alita Last Order. So I actually already have the well, I guess I don't have the deluxes for this because they haven't come out yet. But if they do come out, I am going to get those because the ones for the original series are nice. But just like the original series, I actually want to have all of the singles for Battle Angel Alita. Just because I really like the series, even though I haven't finished Last Order. I think I finished the original. I got pretty far in it. But I just like this series a lot from what I've read of it. And I like having singles in general, compared to like the bulky omnibus, which is why I'm not buying the omnibus for this or the original. Volumes 3 and 4 of Love Hina I picked up. I had about 2-3 months ago picked up the majority of Love Hina, or at least half of the series. I'm missing like the first 5 or so. And again, rom-com comedy like Rhondma, not really my cup of tea. But I know Love Hina is kind of the manga that started off that entire genre, so I wanted to see what tropes originated from it, how the harem genre got its start, and I don't think, from what I've heard, a lot of this holds up in modern times, but it's good to see what the start of a genre was, kind of like Dragon Ball Z, which kicked off a lot of other stuff, and Star Wars, which weirdly I'm not really a fan of Star Wars or Dragon Ball Z, so maybe the pattern will hold and I won't like the original harem manga either. Now for a random volume of Freezing, 19 through 20. I tried getting into this a little bit before, and I really don't remember how I felt about it. I know I have a friend who really loves Freezing, the anime anyway, but I know a lot of these volumes get kind of hard to find after a while, so when I do delve back into the Freezing manga, I figured it'd be nice to have this on hand, and then maybe if I end up not liking it, I'll just sell it, get rid of it. But found it for cover price, which was $20, so not great. But anyway, I figured it was worth picking up for the time. So I have volumes 4 through 27 of Flame of Recca. I don't know if that's upside down, is it? Oh, I think that should be good. So Flame of Recca, an action manga, and I'm not going to show all of these covers, or I might while I'm talking. But it's an action manga that I know a lot of people kind of compare to Rurouni Kenshin, Shaman King, and they say that it doesn't really hold up quite as well as that one, that it doesn't seem to find its voice as well. But they say it's like enjoyable enough to read just to get the popcorn action, so I'm gonna give it a shot. I've got volumes 1 and 2 somewhere, so I think I am still missing volume 3, unfortunately. But when I eventually move out of the place that I'm at and can unbox the mountains of manga that have been stored over the years because I had no place to put them in my last place I was living, I can finally find my volumes 1 and 2 and give this manga a shot. So if you've read Flame of Recca, do let me know what you think of it in the comments, because it's something that I've kind of picked up this series on a whim. And I guess that can be said for probably most of my used manga pickups. I don't really go in seeking out anything in particular besides, like I say, my grails like GTO or the Gantz volumes I'm missing or Iron Walk John. Now, there was a series that I saw in one of these stores called Planet Ladder, and I hadn't really heard of it before, but I looked into it and it sounds pretty interesting, so I'm wondering if any of you out there have read Planet Ladder and would recommend it. And if so, like, is it worth going to pick up for half price at the store it was at? It seems like it's not terribly hard to find from the very bare bones research that I did on it. But it looked like a nice enough series. I think it was one of those stories of someone being the moon. They're reincarnated or something as the moon, or maybe they were always the moon, but they're being hunted because who doesn't want to capture the moon? I want to capture the moon. You got control of the oceans and can probably flood cities or something with that. Not that I'm, championing the capturing of small children, girls who just happen to be the moon. No, that's not good. Don't do that. Don't do that. Just the actual moon. Like Gru in Despicable Me.
We are going to steal!
Pause for effect.
And finishing up the last few here. Hey, we did get through them, even though it was a little bit of an awkward silence there at the end. And that finishes it up. My arm is killing me. That is the haul. A lot of these, as you know by now, even though I've only put out a couple videos, you can probably tell I've got a huge backlog. But xxxholic, currently going to read through Flame of Recca as soon as I can find my other volumes. And Rosario Vampire is going to be getting a reread from me very soon, since I can now actually go through that series. So those are going to be moving up to the top of my list, and Saturn Apartments too, once I can get that volume 1, because it sounds like a concept that I'm really interested in. Anyway, thanks for joining me. I'm sure I'll have another haul pretty soon, especially my new haul for manga from like Right Stuff and similar online places, if In-Stock Trades will ever ship my order. But until then, thanks for watching. See you next time.